Welcome to Ideas That Inspire, where uplifting stories spark hope, inspire change, and remind us that we all have the power to make a difference. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Ideas That Inspire podcast. I'm your host, Emily, and in today's eye-opening conversation, we're exploring sustainability, leadership, and the role of builders in shaping healthier homes and stronger communities. It's nearly winter here in New Zealand, and if you're anything like me, you're already starting to feel the chill. Keeping your home warm in winter and cool in summer is something many of us struggle with. That's why I wanted to introduce you to energy modelling and passive home design. Living in an energy-efficient home with a consistent temperature doesn't just feel better, it supports our health and reduces our environmental impact too. Today, I'm joined by Mark Anderson, founder of MA Building, a Wānaka-based business leading the way in sustainable construction. Mark is on a mission to raise industry standards by leading with purpose. He's not just building energy-efficient homes, he's building a values-led business and championing personal growth in an industry that deeply needs it. Mark's approach to leadership includes fostering a positive work culture and guiding his team to show up as better men at work, at home, and in the wider community. In this episode, you'll hear how Mark went from builder to business owner at just 27, what it takes to build trust with clients and teams, and why he believes resilience and strong community connections are key to running a successful business. Here's my inspiring conversation with Mark Anderson. Welcome to the show, Mark. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time to talk to me today. To begin, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, your business, and what you do.
My name's Mark Anderson. I have owned MA Building now for 11 years. I guess I was a builder, and I'm probably more of a business building owner now than a builder as such. And yeah, that's me.
And to help the community to get to know you better, can you share your cultural background and how where you grew up shaped who you are today?
I guess I'm European, Pākehā, born and bred in Dunedin, and lived there for 30 years, and definitely shaped who I am a little bit. My dad was a builder, and I guess I was on building sites from a very young age, and I actually didn't ever really want to be a builder, and then got to around 20 years old and wasn't really doing much else. So building came, I guess, second nature to me, and away we went. Yeah, living in Dunedin was amazing. I was big into sports, went to a co-ed school, and I guess how it shaped me now is that we were always coming to Central Otago, always had an attachment to Central Otago. So to now live here, my wife and I moved here, I think this is our 10th year now, and we'd always come up for a holiday and then drive back to Dunedin and sort of wonder why we're leaving. And we moved here for the weather, for the work, for the lifestyle, like a lot of people, and quickly realised how good it is and don't really want to leave now.
Yeah, Wānaka is a beautiful place.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate and lucky to be here for sure.
Yeah, me too. So why don't you take us back to the very beginning? What was it like starting out as a builder, and what led you to take that leap into business ownership at just 27?
Yeah, so I was working for actually a friend of Dad's, landscaping, so I was kind of building, I suppose. And I was actually in Central Otago with the next girlfriend fruit picking. I hadn't actually realised, but she had put me forward for the Otago Polytechnic building course. And I got a phone call on like a Sunday night, and they said, if you can get here by tomorrow morning, you're in the course. So someone had pulled out. So I kind of packed my bags, and I think I was 20 or 19, and I got down there overnight and got into the course and made it in. And then that sort of started the journey. There was a year, I had lots of fun that year and learnt a lot. And our apprenticeship is based around 50% practical, 50% bookwork. So it was nice to get all that bookwork done. It was never my strongest point at school and things like that. And then got in, actually worked for the same company as my dad did, which was really fun as well, really nice to work in with. Not always with him, but he was always seeing what I was up to and how I was progressing and projects that I was on. And I just loved it once I got in there. We had a good young crew of guys and had the older guys as well to learn from, but we had a lot of fun while we were doing that. And I was pretty fortunate through my apprenticeship to get a lot of good building projects and some really, really nice houses. And then I sort of finished my time, I think I was 24, became a foreman for that company. I've always been a leader and pretty driven, I suppose, and wanted to be in charge. Didn't really like getting told what to do a hell of a lot, so I think they just threw me at it, and I did a lot of jobs for them, being the younger sort of foreman there, out of town, and not always the best jobs, but that sort of taught me a lot as well. I learned a lot of management, a lot of ordering skills, a lot of managing subcontractors and staff, and worked on the Dunedin Stadium, which was quite cool as well, to go down there now and walk across it. And I was down there a couple of weeks ago and said to my son, I did all this and I did all this, and he was sort of didn't quite understand, but understands enough. And yeah, at 27, I actually had too many cash jobs to do. So I had too much weekend work on, and again, being driven, a little bit hungry for money and wanting to do projects of my own and things of my own, I sort of realised that, hey, I've probably got enough here to do my own thing, and wasn't overly happy where I was. The culture wasn't amazing, and it's definitely something I took forward from leaving that company and starting my own one. There was a lot of things that I didn't mind in there, but there's a lot I didn't like. So I've always put that in my brain about, as a staff member, what I did and didn't like, and brought that forward into my own company. So yeah, at 27, I suppose I look back now, 11 years in and almost 12 years in, and probably realised how young and green I was, and it started pretty fresh. I just took what I could and got on with it and got busy and got working, and yes, 11 years in and still going.
Well, it sounds like it's meant to be the way it unfolded so easily for you, and having all those experiences and being able to take your experience from being an employee to becoming an employer and knowing how to take care of your staff and how they feel and being in their position. That's all great experience to have as a business owner.
Yeah, and it's not to forget it. And it's the ebb and flow of being an employee and an employer. We need X and they need Y, and understanding that they do have needs and wants and desires as well. And it can't be just all building focused. It is a big driver of mine personally to work with more men, and we have some pretty open conversations on site. Nothing's really off topic, and they know there's an open door. It's even little things like I used to be, especially as an apprentice, really scared to go into my boss's office and ask for a pay rise. I'd leave it, and then you might walk in maybe a year or 2 years after you should have, and you get a 50-cent pay rise or something, and you think, what was the point? So I worked to get on top of that early, book meetings in with my boys before they need to come and ask me, and I bring it up just to maybe take that little load off them a little bit. Being proactive, respecting them as much as they need to respect me, and there's a lot of mutual respect going both ways.
Sounds like a great environment for them to be learning and growing in. Yeah,
and it's building that environment. It's probably getting even better, and they're helping me to build it as much as and I can plant some seeds, and I'm very fortunate to allow those seeds to grow now with them, and I don't have to do it all.
Yeah, that's a great reminder that we don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
We can rely on the team.
Yeah, that's taken a long time. And there's probably two people particularly that have helped that, and they're contractors of mine. So I've got a contract admin and bookkeeper and contract marketing lady. And both of those just showed me that people can work without supervision and they can think for themselves. Sort of the way Zara came about was Amy, my marketer, just through conversation with me, understood that I needed someone. So she just threw something up. I didn't even know about it. She just took charge. And next minute, Zara applied. I had about 25 phone calls in a day. And I was like, what's going on here? I didn't even know. And I jumped on my marketing, on Instagram, I think it was. And I was like, oh, no wonder anyone's ringing me. And I got quite overwhelmed by it all and inundated. And I just flagged it all. And then Zara just kept on keeping on. Probably took us 2 or 3 weeks of just dropping me a note. I was like, this is the type of person I need. I need someone that just doesn't let it go, and a bit of a dog with a bone, and just kept hounding me until I finally had a meeting with her and locked her in. And she's made life just so easy, absolutely so easy.
It's a great reminder for people that want something to keep going after it, and that it can work out.
And it can, and it's taken, I probably had 3 or 4 admin people before that, and I did get to the point where I was like, oh, bugger it, I'll just do it all myself, and then she came along, and she honestly just made it so easy, and that builds that trust to then me to start thinking of that way with staff as well, that they can work without me and I don't have to hover over them. It's empowering for them too. Yeah, it's really empowering for them. It allows them to take charge and ownership of their own job as well.
Yeah, it's so important to have the right people on your team.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be something that's more important now than skills and experience, because you can learn those things. But having the right person with the right personality and attitude is always going to make a really great team.
Yeah, and I say that about apprentices all the time. They say, what do you need? I said, just a good attitude, bring some energy, bring a good vibe. We'll teach you everything else, but I can't teach you those things. I can't teach you to walk with pace, or if you're going to get something, go and get it. Don't dawdle over there, or don't have your phone. I can't teach you any of that stuff, but we can teach you all the other stuff. And it's the same with even experienced builders now, because the way we build, which is a little different, they need to come out with an open mind and be prepared to be taught as well, a few new things.
Yeah, and I imagine starting a business young comes with its challenges. What were some of those biggest hurdles that you faced in those early days, and how did you navigate them?
Yeah, they're probably endless when I look back now. Probably one of the big ones is building trust with a client and a lack of self-belief in your own self, which is still a work on every day of my life now. But yeah, if you're walking in there to say a meeting, or if you might be doing a sales pitch and you don't back your price, or you don't think you're worthy, they feed off that, right? And if you are young, it doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing, but they might not trust you off the bat. Do they trust your pricing? And then do you trust your own pricing? And you know you can do the job. I was not probably so much now, but back then I was really skilled. I was a really good builder and really passionate about it. I knew I could do everything, but it was getting people to take a chance on me. And when you're in construction, it's quite big money. It's quite a big deal for a lot of people. Not just the money side of it, but just the energy they're putting into it as well. And you learn that you've actually got to hold a lot of that for the clients as they're building. It's pretty personal. So that was challenging as a young guy, and a guy who'd never had to deal with too many clients as such, having to deal with the marketing or trying to get work, having to price at night after work. My wife did all the bookkeeping for me. So learning software systems like Xero, and I love this story because it's how I sort of touched on Amy doing my marketing now and the investment that we're putting into her and what we're doing and how professional it is versus back then, which was like advertising in fish and chip shops, you know? And you're like, just to pull off flyer, like, well, I'd just do anything, any work. It didn't matter. It was like, I needed the work, the income to get the ball rolling. And it probably took a couple of years to finally land a more decent project. I did a lot of small stuff, and that was challenging. But again, I just felt like that was how I needed to do it and to prove myself, and probably prove to myself that I could have the business as well.
It's a great reminder that everybody starts smaller and just grow as you grow, the business grows, and to look back and think how far you've come from fish and chip advertising to where you are now.
Yeah, looking back definitely helps.
Yeah, how much the scope of marketing has changed over the years as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you go back 11 years, I don't know if there was half the apps, social media apps. There was Facebook and stuff, and was there much more? Maybe not.
Probably not.
There's no podcast, I don't think. So yeah, the avenues to market into are huge, and we have another crew in Australia who kind of make sure our marketing gets to the people as well. When you start to learn a bit about that, you're like, oh, wow, this is like how you can get a lot of, and now AI is coming in again, which is changing the game again. So having the guys that know it is the key. And I did business coaching early on from probably second year in. It was a decent investment of money over the business, but I wanted to learn business because in building you don't get taught business. You get taught how to build houses, manage jobs, subbies. You don't get taught pre-work and post-work and the pricing and client management and staff management and marketing and how to get work in and how to tender and all this stuff. So I did probably 3 years of business coaching, which taught me numbers and marketing. And I probably only now sit back in the last couple of years and realise the marketing piece, what he taught me once I found someone to do it for me, because it wasn't my skill set.
Thank you for sharing that you did the coaching, because I imagine that's very similar for a lot of trades and services that people do. They go in and they learn the thing that they're really passionate about, but then having a business is this whole other ball game. And as you say, like even if you're not doing stuff now, you've got that background knowledge so that you can work with the people that are doing it and have that better understanding.
Absolutely. And then I started to maybe look in the mirror because I wasn't maybe getting what I wanted out of it. And I was like, what's the common denominator here? And the mirror's looking back at you. Maybe I'm not the block, but am I the individual that's maybe stopping some of the growth or something what I actually want? And that's where that self-belief piece comes in. And I parked the business side of coaching and went into more personal development side of coaching to understand me and how I show up and why I am. And I'm still doing that to this day and forever learning, peeling the onion and looking in and going, oh crap, there's another bit to work through. And it's a piece with that with the staff as well, that I talk a lot about it and share with them a lot about what I learn. And we put there's lots of stuff going on my sites, well, in trades anyway, that I'm trying to change around how we are as men, how we talk to each other. There's always a bit of, what I call it, gossiping, or bitching and moaning and stuff like that. And I'm cutting it out. We're not just changing how we're building our houses. I want to change how we are acting on our houses as well, interacting with each other and creating better men on site, and also that if they're happy at work, they go home hopefully happier as well, and maybe take a tip or two home that I might speak into and be good men at home as well.
It's so fantastic to hear, to be that role model and then to be wanting more for your staff and for yourself and creating that environment for them to see what that feels like. And then, yeah, as you say, to be able to take that home and teach that to their families or their children or their friends. And that's just going to make for a much better world with people that know how to speak to each other and know how to deal with their emotions and have good, honest communication. So that's amazing work that you're doing. You said that you grew up in Dunedin and that's where you originally started your business before moving to Wānaka. What was that transition like? Was it a challenge? Did it open up new opportunities? And maybe for like business owners considering relocating, like what advice would you give them?
I reflect on this often. Moving up to Wānaka, to a place where there's sections everywhere, there's houses to build, there's work everywhere. I did think I was just going to come up, and I think the statement I've sort of said in the past is take on the world, and it would just fall in my lap and I wouldn't have to do anything and it would just happen. Come up and hired lots of guys and thought all this work would just come in, and didn't quite happen like that.
I can absolutely see how that you would think that coming to a place like Wānaka from Dunedin.
Yeah.
So much growth here.
Yeah, and you didn't realise you still had to do things well. You still had to do your marketing. You still had to get your name out there. You still had to build the trust, not only with clients, but just in the actual ecosystem of building. Subcontractor trust both ways, architect trust both ways, just generally in public. And that has taken longer maybe for myself than I would have liked. If there's one word that sticks out a lot for me in 11 years, it's resilience. I think you need it to be in business. Even, say, the best, maybe not the best businesses, because what is the best business, but perceived businesses that are going really well. I've actually spoken to some of these guys and they're like, yeah, we still often want to quit. I'm like, really? Outside looking in, you just look like you're flying, It looks like everything's easy. But business can be easy at times and it can be challenging at times. And I think you learn to ride the wave and be resilient with it. And there is good times, more tricky times. And I had a period where I was just about to sort of expand a lot about 4 or 5 years ago. And 3 of my staff that had been with me for 3 years decided to up and leave for really good reasons. They didn't so much want to leave, but they were starting ventures and finishing apprenticeships. And there was a good reason behind it. But it was like, it's like half my crew gone in 3 months, and had to pivot and change and figure out what to do next. But if you're moving here, I think maybe tempering expectations a little bit and probably realising that the basics still matter, and probably interpersonal relationships are as important as anything. One of the first things I did when I moved here, actually, through my business coach, he said possibly do this as a marketing avenue, and that was BNI, Business Networking Group. So I still remember going to that meeting. So we landed on my tangy weekend in Wānaka, and on Tuesday morning, the first thing I ever did in business in Wānaka was go to that group. James Kingscote was the president, who's Mike Bureau mortgage owner, and there's about 25 people, and I just come out. The energy in the room was amazing. So I committed straight away, and that just helped land in the community to understand all of the businesses, and I still use a lot of those businesses that were in that group. I'm not in the group anymore, but I was probably in it for 6 years or more, and just helped get out there and get a bit of work and just connect with people. And so, interpersonally, getting out into community and connecting with people, I think would be a smart thing to do, because we have an amazing community. It's one of the biggest things I love about Wānaka is the connected nature of this community is like, I don't know if it's anywhere else in New Zealand, but one of the big pieces I love about it.
Thank you. Yeah, great reminder that what we see from the outside of other people's businesses or lives is not always what they're feeling on the inside, and how important resilience is, and to just know that everyone's going through struggles and everyone has highs and lows, and to just keep going and to keep connecting and to make those connections, be part of the community and
talk to people.
Yeah.
Because you realise that you're not the only one dealing with something, and that does make it feel easier. And we talk a lot about mental health. Our industry's got a shocking mental health industry. Unfortunately, a bad number, and it's something I'm pretty passionate about again, but it does help by just chatting to people. I've put together a group of guys that we catch up with once a month, builders, just to chew the fat and ease the load, and start realising that, man, they're having staff issues, they're having jobs stop and start, they're having this problem and that problem, but they're also having some good stuff. Comparisonitis was the word I used, comparing to others, outside looking in, thinking, why is that happening for them and not for me, and all that kind of stuff. And I've really had to work on that and temper that and change that mindset around it, because it can just become a little bit overwhelming. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've probably got on top of that. And that's probably helped by niching and knowing my purpose and my why a lot more.
Yeah, so talking about niching, can you talk us through how you first discovered passive house construction and what caught your attention? What does it involve, and what you learnt that changed the way you think about building?
How it came about was we did a build with, it's a specialised product that goes on the inside of our wall structures. It's called a vapour control barrier. And I did that and I was like, this is interesting. It was just designed into a house that we built and sparked some thinking. And as I touched on, I was working on my mental development and I was working on my fitness and I was working on what I ate and I was changing all these aspects of my life. And then some of it was like, well, what's sort of missing? And then I was like, well, maybe there's actually a better house I could be living in. There's a better indoor environment that I could be in. And started just doing a bit of research and actually spoke to an architect, Rafe McLean, who said, these are the houses I build. And if you want to build them, you need to go and do the course. And I was like, I wonder what that is, So this is probably 5 or 6 years ago. And it still took me 2 years to actually commit to it and go and do the course. And then I did the course and then a whole lot of stuff happened, namely COVID. And I couldn't quite do my exam and I couldn't get qualified and then managed to do it finally. First time I did my course, I was building my own house. And as I was building my own house, I had all sorts of ideas mid-build, like, crikey, I was changing this and changing that and trying to learn on the fly, really, which kind of worked, kind of didn't, and learned a lot from living in that house as well, which is really helpful going forward for clients and their builds. And then we actually landed a passive house 4 years ago, and I just finished the course, did the course twice, actually, which was really helpful as well. And, I was just talking to a couple of people today on site around maybe the fears and why people don't want to build this way. And I look back to the start of that build and it was the biggest contract I'd ever taken on, and it was a passive house and it was an overseas client, and for me it was a big deal. And I definitely took the responsibility on and did as much learning as I could do and tried to get advice from people. And so I didn't say stuff up the build because that was the fear. Am I going to get this wrong? This is actually going for certification. What do I need to do to make it get to certification? Well, that was actually quite scary. And then I got into it and we started building it and breaking it down. It's just like building. There's maybe 3 or 4 extra components you need to think of, 5 extra components you need to think about. There's a little bit of different sequencing with our sub-trades. But it actually started to become really, really fun, like a real challenge. Like after 20 years of building or so, 15 years of building, I'd done so much. I'd done everything in the industry, really. High-end to renos to commercial to everything in between. I needed a new challenge, and this is what it was, which has turned into a bigger why, which is around actually wanting to change the industry to build more like this. And that's to change 90% of our life. We're in the inbuilt environment. So we live inside 90% of our lives, yet most of our inbuilt environment is not overly beneficial for our health, let alone our power bills and our wallets and everything else that comes with it. And we hear so many stories where we don't have huge extremes here in Wānaka, but we've got more extremes in some other parts of the country. And I actually gave one of my workers a thermometer to take home, and like his flat was 6 degrees.
That's cold.
It's an old Wānaka build, so I get it. But I also know some of the newer ones that if they didn't have heating on, they'd be 10, 11, 12 degrees. And is that good enough? I'm not sure. Are people getting value for money? I'm not sure. So we build so different.
So for those people that don't know what a passive house is, can you just explain?
Yeah, I guess it's a good point. Actually getting back to basics, The passive house has 5 components: really good windows, really good insulation levels, airtight barrier, ventilation, and thermal bridge free. So thermal bridge free is stopping hot and cold being able to transfer as much as possible through our building fabric, inside, outside. What that equates to is a house that is 90% more efficient than a standard built house. So there's a few number criteria, and we've worked that out by designing the house and then putting all the information of the house into what's called the Passive House Planning Package, which is an energy modelling software system that literally spits out all the data, and we know how your house is going to work. We know how much energy it's going to need, we know how hot it's going to get and how cold it's going to get. It's an amazing, amazing tool for helping me as the builder and the guide pricing the job to help clients make really, really informed decision around what to spend their money on. And we can push and pull that money from, do we throw 100 grand at heating systems, for example, underfloor, his system, that system, or do we put that money into a smaller heating system and into a better building fabric, more insulation, better windows, airtightness, ventilation, so the house actually works a lot better. And it's looking at a house more holistically. Yes, we look at each individual component, but we look at all those components tie into the house together. But to be 90% efficient, so it literally runs, for example, the house we built, the passive house, they've got 2 very, very small heat pumps for 150 squares, and they haven't had them on yet in winter or summer. That's pretty incredible.
Sure is.
So it's accessing things like the sun but we don't want too much because in summer we cook.
Yeah.
So there's a real yin and yang thing there with the sun. And a lot of people find that in the summer, and we've just been talking into that. So we use the sun, we use our body heat, we use our ovens, we use our showers, we use our TVs and our computers. And once you start thinking about in our fridges, and all these elements they're all creating energy, they're all creating heat within the home anyway. You're going to add enough sun, not too much, but enough. And the biggest component to it is, so when we talk air tightness, and I won't get too geeky, but it's literally trying to retain as much warm air in the house for as long as possible as we can. So a number that we have to reach for passive house is a 0.65 air change. So that's changing air 0.6 of an hour every hour, whereas a normal house, even new built house, would be 5 to 8 times. So you're losing all your energy out the house 5 to 8 times an hour that you've got to then regather. And
I'm assuming that's when the house is closed up with no windows and doors open.
Well, that's another fella. So you can have your windows and doors open. But yeah, so in winter, we don't want to open our windows and doors, do we?
No, not in Wānaka.
Not really. Do we want that -5 air in the morning rushing in just so we can get rid of the condensation off our windows?
Yeah, but that's what you have to do here in New Zealand, isn't it?
But that's what you have to do. And then what do you have to do? You've got to reheat all that air, don't we? A lot of our houses don't need that. And I've got a couple of beautiful examples in the last few years that are just working so well. And when we talk numbers and dollars and cents, it does help to save power bills and definitely works, but it's actually a feeling. These houses literally feel different. You walk into them, you're like, there's something different about this place.
Oh, I can imagine.
There literally is. And I'm loving learning about it and upskilling and problem solving with my boys and teaching my boys these ways. And yeah, they're loving it too.
Does it make a difference where you build the house? Like if you were building one in Wānaka compared to Northland, do you do different things?
The beautiful thing about passive house is it's worldwide industry standard. So yes, for example, we might need I'll talk insulation values because normal people normally understand it. So we might need an R6 down here because we've got cold up in the North Island. They might need an R2.
Right.
But their problem could be a lot more around moisture management because they get a lot more humidity, and it might be a lot more around keeping it cool in summer. Again, it's hotter, it's more humid. So you can build a passive house in the middle of the desert, but it might be paper thin with shading all around it. And you could build a passive house in Antarctica that could have 600 mil thick walls of insulation and not many windows. So it works everywhere, but the key to it is designing it well and having the right designers do it, and then energy modelling it to understand how it's actually going to work and if it's going to achieve what we need it to achieve. They're pretty amazing.
Do you just build passive houses now?
That's the goal. Yeah, so last year I put a couple of stakes. Keep this story short, but a client came to me and said, I'm not sure if you can build my house. And I was like, what do you mean? They said, it's not a passive house. And I said, what have you got? They said, well, we're airtight, we're ventilated, and we're going to put really good windows in it, and we want to build it really well. And I sort of went, oops, I've gone so far down passive house because I really want that to be the big goal. But I kind of missed a couple of levels underneath. So we created a couple of tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And tier 1 is our base minimum that I'll build to now, which is an airtight house, ventilated. We build the walls and roof really, really well with good insulation levels and the slabs smart. And then probably tier 2, you're starting to look into really, really good windows. And tier 3 is kind of passive house. And that was a bit of a stake in the ground. I don't think anyone else in Wānaka's doing that. So I'm, fingers crossed, not going to do another renovation or standard code build if I don't have to. Obviously, I've got a business to run as well, and if I have to, from a business side of things, I will. But I'll still try and bring some of the components that I know could help, a couple of 1%ers. And then I've added another one, which is the energy modelling, because for me to understand how this house is going to work and tell you that it's actually going to be efficient, I need that data. So that's another compulsory to work with us. So you must build airtight and ventilated, and we must energy model it to know what levels of insulation and different data. So I can sit there and go, yep, this is going to work instead of guessing, because there's been a few guesses around the country that have turned into glass houses and they're too hot. Summer they have to move out. It's like 50 degrees in the house, and they're trying to undo some of the work, and people think they're doing good, and it's great to see people giving it a go. But if you give it a go without the right information, it can cause more problems than it's worth.
Yeah, so it sounds like the energy modelling is a crucial part of your process. Can you break that down for us a little bit more so we know what that means and why it matters and how it changes the way a home performs?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So It'll add in all the data, like the floor area, external wall areas, the roof areas, the type of windows we're using. It breaks it down into the type of glass you're using, because there's actually about 10 different types of glass. Everyone just knows double or triple, but within the double and triple, there's all sorts of different components and how they are set up. It'll put in the type of insulation you're using, the type of foundation you're using. All this data goes in. And then I don't do it. I get someone else to do it who just love it. They geek out on it and they're amazing at it. And then it sort of tells us how much energy the house would be standard build versus what it's going to be now. It'll tell us, for example, I'll go to them and say, hey, what about using a 90mm frame versus a 140mm frame? That'll cost this for that and that for that. What's the difference? And they'll say, oh, it might drop the kilowatts per square metre per area per year down 2 kilowatts. And I go, it's probably not really worth that money and that investment. Or we might target something else and they go, like the windows, for example. Okay, the window's going to be quite a lot more expensive, but how much more efficient are they going to be? And then a client can be like, oh, yeah, that's way more efficient. I want to invest my money in that. Let's go. And it looks at, I've just had one come back for a build, and the architect is pretty clever. He's a good, clever architect, and there's just one little strip that he maybe could have detailed a little bit better. So the modeler actually brought that to my attention, and I got it changed. So I can have a little bit of impact on design as well. It's kind of like having an energy rating on a fridge or a fuel rating on your car. We have these ratings everywhere else, but we don't have them on our houses. They do around the world. Other countries definitely have them. The other thing that we don't have in this country is an air change record in our building code. Even Australia has one. I think it averages about 8 or 10. Other countries around the world have like one. So every house that gets built has to be built to a one air change. And I see that as having a pretty major impact on our energy consumption through winter when our energy demand is the highest. Solar panels don't really work, not around here, because we get the inversion, we don't get as much sun. We almost ran out of power in our country last year. There was talk of power outages and all this because our hydro lakes were empty. And you start going, well, actually, if we can start to get more of these houses built that are more efficient, they might not be full passive houses, but let's call them energy efficient houses. Does that take less impact on our grid? Can we pull some of that impact on our grid down? It's definitely bigger thinking, but that's the goal.
Are you looking for a way to support the podcast and the planet? Ascent's Ocean Foam Hand and Body Wash has been bringing me so much joy lately. It's not just the fresh East Coast citrusing scent. It's the feeling of supporting a purpose-driven Kiwi business, doing things differently. Patrick, the founder of Ascent, has created something really special, a fully circular refill system that's simple and sustainable. You get a beautiful glass bottle with a durable steel pump designed to last, and when it's time to refill, you can send your empties back for free. It's honestly a no-brainer. And as a bonus, the Ideas That Inspire community gets 10% off the wash set, gift set, and duo set with the code IDEAS10OFF. That's IDEAS, the number 10, OFF at ascentrefills.nz or by using the link in the show notes. If you're ready to ditch single-use plastic and support innovation that's good for people and the planet, start your buy once refill forever journey with Ascent today. Have you got an idea, goal or dream but feel overwhelmed on where to start? Let's chat. I'd love to help you gain fresh perspectives, feel heard, safe and supported. Visit ideasthatinspire.com to book your clarity call and get ready to feel empowered and move forward with confidence. Sounds like there's a lot involved there and quite complicated for the regular person. I imagine educating homeowners is a huge part of your work. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you run into, and how do you help shift people's mindsets around that?
2 that spring to mind. I can't open my windows because I've got an airtight house. Like we talked about before, you can open the windows, but I say back to them and say, do you want to open them at -5? Or do you want to open them when it's 33 degrees and let all that 33 degree air heat into your house? Or do you want to keep them closed for the hottest part of the day and keep your house to 24 degrees? That feels a little bit more comfortable. So there's that big one. I need a fireplace. Kiwis just can't get away from having fireplaces. I have to have a fireplace. You won't need a fireplace. I don't care if I don't need a fireplace. I have to have a fireplace.
Such a cozy environment.
Oh, it's just so awesome to look at. I said, put them outside and look at them outside.
Put one on your TV.
Yeah, I say to them, do you really like doing the firewood and stacking it and paying for it and cleaning all the dust that it drags in and going outside when it's snowing and raining and getting your wood box? Do you really like all that?
No.
Or would you like a house where you just almost don't have to even press a button for it to work? Oh, that sounds quite nice. I'm pretty fortunate because we are so niche and we market so well that a lot of the clients are coming to us already relatively aware. We would love more people coming to us and going, even if they're not building with us, like just, I'm building a house, what could I do? I can't do all this. My builder doesn't want to do all this airtightness stuff and all this stuff. What could I do? I could give a list of 10 things that people could do for next to $0. Next to $0, which would have an impact on their house. And it might be 1%, and you do it 10 times, it's 10% better. It's the way we frame, it's the way we insulate our houses, it's the way we install our windows, it's the way we put our waterproof wraps on the outside and we tape them up and we don't let air wash through the walls, which devalues the insulation level. Kind of like when you've got an insulated jacket on and it's a cold southerly wind and it still feels cold. And then you go and put like a Gore-Tex windproof jacket on and the wind stops going through all the baffles in your insulated jacket and it starts getting warm. It's the same with the house. If we stop cold air pushing on our houses and washing through the walls, taking all our warm molecules out of our insulation layers, our houses start to work better. We've probably reduced our framing by like 30 to 40% timber. What does that mean? It just means more insulation. So that wall's actually working closer to the R value that it's actually specified to be. And the biggest one is you have a bathroom duct times 2, sometimes times 3 for ventilation. You've got a kitchen duct for ventilation. And then the latest one that came out in my mind last week when we were talking on site about fires is where the fire flue goes through. So that's 5 holes in your house that are uncontrolled.
Ah.
So there's cold air coming in and there's hot air going out. And if you times those 5, and that's like having, say, maybe a 500 by 500 window open all the time. Oh, I can feel that draft around my feet. Where do you think it's coming from? It's from your fire drawing the cold air from outside.
Something you just don't think about.
There's these new gadgets called a thermobox, which can go into a standard bathroom vent, and it's got like 3 baffles on it, and it's magnetized. When you turn your fan on, it opens up and the air goes out, and when you turn the fan off, they shut, and it's airtight.
Makes sense.
So that's a 1% thing that anybody can do. They're like a couple $100.
Right. So that's a sustainable building practice that any homeowner could do now.
Yeah, there's so many.
What's one other one?
Framing. So as I mentioned, we're reducing so much framing out of our builds now, which does a couple of things. It means we get more insulation in. So you save the money in the frames because you're not putting as much timber in. You save the install of the insulation because you don't have to cut as many pieces. They just go in full pieces. So that also saves waste. And then the money that you've saved in that can then be distributed to the other aspects which allow us to do that system, which is like a structural cavity batten to hang our cladding on. It's more expensive than a standard batten, but if you've saved the money in the framing, you can put it into that, if that makes sense. So this is where I spin a lot of money around. I'm like, we'll save it out of there and we'll put it into there. It's exactly the same amount you've spent, but that wall's potentially working 20% better.
Right. Sustainability is a huge part of the passive house design.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain how passive homes help reduce environmental impact and will create a more sustainable future?
It's probably mainly through the energy demand. I mean, we can have an impact on it by choosing better products like Terralana wall insulation, or you can go down like a straw sit style build, which is really, really environmental and sustainable because a lot of it's grown locally. And if you think about end of life use, it could be pulled down and a lot of it could go back into the ground, straw and timber and plaster. So that's how we can have an impact. But from a passive house point of view, it's really the energy demand. So if your house isn't needing so much energy, then you're not pulling as much from the grid. And if we've got all that, then potentially we can stop burning coal. So our country, I think I'm right in saying, don't quote me, we buy in coal from China and we burn it up north to create power.
Do we?
Yeah. What if we needed less power in our country, potentially, because we're building smarter homes? And we've got to come back to that feeling too. So we've got a huge asthma epidemic in this country. We've got a hidden mould epidemic that potentially will start to grow even more. These houses will help both of those. Respiratory systems will disappear. I actually just saw the Healthy Home Standard from government put out a bit of a data since they've changed some of the industry for the rentals. And the numbers they'd saved and the amount of people that were at school more and at work more and less sick and all this stuff were all down. All the markers were down.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it was on LinkedIn, and someone who's a Passive House supporter said, wonder what else we could potentially look at doing. And someone locally, they actually lobbied the Dunedin Hospital to go to Passive House standard. Would have been the second one in the world, which would have been absolute amazing. He lobbied government for years. The amount of money it would have saved. Don't we want to be putting our unhealthiest people into a building potentially that can get them out of hospital quicker?
Makes sense.
Yet we're smack bang. I grew up in Dunedin and we were putting the hospital between two double-lane highways, which are gridlocked from 7:30 to 9 o'clock every day and 2:30 to 4 o'clock every day.
Oh, gosh.
Where are all those fumes going?
Yeah.
And they'll have ventilation systems and everything in them anyway, but it could be better.
Yeah.
But it's bigger thinking. It's really big thinking. And I saw, again, I was on LinkedIn, I was just doing research around Passive House and that, and there's a pool in England getting built to Passive House standards, and they'd run the numbers on the savings, the cost savings, with billions over 100 years. And I think in this country, we need to stop thinking 3-year cycles. We need to start thinking 100-year cycles. And if we build our houses this way, are they going to look after the building fabric for longer so we don't have to renovate them as much?
Yeah, that long-term thinking is so important.
Long-term thinking. And the big one for me is changing the industry so our future generations are living. It's not for me and you, it's for our kids and our kids' kids. Someone said to me, when we migrated here 170 years ago, whatever it was, when the first settlers came here, it's like they forgot how to build.
Started from scratch.
In England, they had reticulated gas. They've had gas and heating and everything over there for years. And they come over here and like, oh, don't need all that. It's not that cold. And we haven't changed that much. That's the thing in the industry. We've added some slightly better insulation. We might have done double glazing. And have we done much more?
It really sounds like you're on a mission to transform the building industry here in New Zealand. Why is it so important that we start building these better, healthier homes? And what is stopping other builders from making that shift?
I think it's important because we're in our indoor environment for 90% of the time. Go back thousands of years, we're living outside a lot more. Do we all want to be living in mouldy houses, cold houses, damp houses? If we're in them, not just our houses, our buildings, like I'm in a building now, we're in it 90% of the time. Do we want to be in them? And they do feel different and they are more comfortable and they do cost less to run. And I believe in time, they actually stripped apart the very first Passive House in Germany. Well, the first accredited Passive House in Germany. They went through all the products within it and they were all still performing 35 odd years on. So that was a good omen. To the other point of the question around builders not doing it, I think there is a fear there. There's not enough demand from clients. There's probably misconceptions, like you can't open your windows, it costs too much. Sure, they do cost a bit more. There's more components. So I can't build the same thing for the same price because there's more of those things. There's a lack of industry knowledge. And it's actually not driven by me and the industry, it's driven by society. And unfortunately, when you're grown up in a house from the 1920s and then you now build a house in the 2020s, they're so much better than each other that the 2020 actually seems awesome. But I've had so many people say to me, I've just moved into my house and my windows are saturated. What's going on? Just built a house, brand new house, and there's condensation everywhere and there's this and there's that. What can I do? And there's not really much you can do. So I think it's learning, it's behaviour, societal change, which will come, and it's coming.
Yeah.
It's becoming a little bit more, not so much popular, but it's why we do a lot of talks and why we do a lot of open days, and it's why we do a lot of evenings, just to try and break it down and just simplify it a lot.
Has there been a moment with a client recently that's really enforced why this work matters?
Yeah, someone came to me. She's local, and I think she'll be happy if she hears it for me to, I won't say her name, but she came to me and she said, we've built 4 times, I think it was 4 times, this is our 5th build, and we want to get this one right. And that's due to her daughter having, I think she's got a respiratory problem, and they got to go to Australia every couple of years in winter.
Right.
She came to us because she's like, we just have to get this one right. And she'd known about us and followed us in our journey and stuff, and that's what made her pick up the phone to us. That was great. And the same, another one that we're going to start soon, hopefully. They've got I think it's their son with a heart condition. So they want to put their kids, again, it's like what I said before, it's putting our kids into a better home, and then they'll hopefully grow up in these homes, and then hopefully they'll build one day and go, I'm not building that rubbish over there, and all of a sudden the tide will come up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll help.
Yeah, so really health related.
Yeah, a lot of health related.
Yeah, and so interesting what you said earlier. It's not just individual homes, it's the buildings that we're in. How do you see that wider building industry evolving? If you had the power to change New Zealand's building code tomorrow, what would you prioritise?
I got asked this question at an event last year with WOW, with the Better Building Group. And I read someone said, why our government, I'm not very political at all, but like why our government continues to try and build its own code and its own way to build when there's already one that's working around the world. My answer in that question was I wish they would use energy modelling more. But how I wish I'd answered that question was I wish they would just look elsewhere and see what is working. Scotland's just put a statement in the ground. I think the statement was they were going to build passive house standard as of 2025. I think they've just pulled it back a little bit. And there's actually 2 levels of passive house. And I think they may have just pulled it back to the lower level of passive house. But they've just gone bugger it. From 2025 onwards, this is how we're going to build. Everything gets built to that standard. And I'd love for the government to listen to more of the industry people that are just so clued up. And we've got some amazing people in this country that know their stuff, that can help and guide them to make better informed decisions on the changes that they do make. I know that we can't just sweep everything under the carpet and change the industry overnight. It'd be too scary, it'd be too much costs, and the industry's a little bit prickly at the moment as it is. We don't want to make it even worse. So just making the little steps in the right direction. Do I think this is going to be the way forward in 2035, 2040, 2050? I'm not sure. Our commercial building is concrete and steel still. We're not even potentially looking at timber-framed buildings. Overseas, they're building skyscrapers out of timber.
Wow.
And they're amazing from a like earthquake. They flex and they move and they're actually quite good. With the amount of timber we grow in this country,
You think that would be easier for us?
Yeah, but we just keep going back to the model of concrete and steel and concrete and steel and concrete and steel. And then people go and work in those offices. They can't work in them because they're too hot or they've got the aircon going all day. Or they're too cold so they've got the heat pumps on all day. Shout out to Dunlop Building. They built their Dunlop Hub to passive house standard. That's my goal. It's my dream. I want to build an office female building that's passive house so people can come into the office and feel it before they're even living in it.
Mm.
And my staff are working in an amazing environment.
Yeah.
We talked about it at the start around staff, and would business owners not want their staff to be working in the best indoor environments so that they're actually staying awake and not falling asleep because the carbon dioxide's through the roof? Same at schools, right? Don't we want our kids in schools to be focused and not drowsy in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Our teachers don't have to open and close windows.
So much potential. And I feel like in New Zealand, because we're so small, we can do things and make an impact. And it's such a shame that we do seem to be a bit behind the times. And as you say, don't look to what other people are doing. And also everything else that you're doing with having that great relationship with your staff and thinking about them. And you mentioned about your personal development, and I understand that you've been part of a men's personal growth coaching container for 3 years. What's the most valuable lesson from that experience, and how has that shaped how you lead your team and work with clients? And talk more about that.
Quite a lot. and the onion just keeps getting peeled. Self-belief, self-confidence, learning how to communicate well, respectfully, holding boundaries, not being walked over. But again, doing it with respect, not needing to be a prick or an asshole in this industry. Oh man, the topics are endless. Another thing that we've added into site is like industry's got a bit of an old school thing around crash to women, being crash to women and stuff. And we talk about it on site and I knock it out. It's all through my coaching. And we're animals, women are beautiful, but it doesn't mean that we need to be whistling at them or gawking at them or saying terrible stuff when they leave site and behind their back. That's the kind of stuff that I try and share with the boys about respect both ways. Again, changing the industry in that way. Yeah, but a big piece of it is the self-belief and understanding that and building on that constantly and understanding your upbringing and you're shaped by your past and it does impact your future, but you can learn from it.
Yeah, and our self-belief allows us to feel successful as well. Self-belief is such an important thing, and it's beautiful how you're teaching your staff to have belief in themselves and to respect others, and that all ties into success, and I'd like to dive into that a little bit more. What does success mean to you for MA Building, and how's that definition changed since you first started the business?
I have no idea what success was when I started. It was just surviving.
Which I think is very common.
Yeah. It would be now consistency. Success for me would look like consistency. So consistent jobs, delivering consistent quality, consistent staff, how they show up, how we do things on the daily, our daily habits. Another big piece of my coaching is around our habits. And then more success is actually, which is driving a lot of growth for me at the moment, is having more guys so I can impact them. And it's impacted them in what we've talked about, but also if I can teach them some skill set that they've never learnt before, and they leave me in time, because not everyone's with you forever, and they go off to another building company, they can maybe impact another building company. Or they could start their own company. I've got a fellow who worked for me for 8 years, and he's in his late 50s and been building his whole life. And he built the passive house with me, and now he's off building 2 of his own houses for rentals, and he's building them the way we built that. So that's how I can see success happening as well, by other guys going off and impacting the industry as well. It doesn't, again, it's the who, not how. It doesn't have to be me all the time. I can hold the flag up and say, this is what I want to do, and this is the mission and the vision, and put it to people, and then people get on board. And if they drop off, that's cool, but they'll hopefully carry that vision on somewhere else. And that would be success. Yeah, success. Would it be seeing this built more? Probably. Yeah, would it be seeing the industry get on board with another big part of what we do is our waste management? Again, I talked about community here. We've got the Better Building Group, which is an amazing group of people. And Monique Kelly started it through WOW. And about 4 or 5 of us, I think I walked into the room at the end of last year, there was close to 30. And I hadn't been there for a few months and I couldn't believe it. I was like, look at how that little drop in the ripple in the ocean at the lake, we call it Lake Wānaka ripple, has spread out. And now I'm starting to see more and more recycling bins and more this and more that around town on other builders' building sites. I'm like, this is awesome. That's success. It's starting to breed itself in the catchphrase, this is how we build. Because we want everyone to, and not everyone's doing it, and not everyone will do it. And that's being okay with that too. Not everyone has to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I love that one person can make a difference, and that every little thing that we do all adds up and makes a difference in the long run.
Yeah, it does. And I sometimes wonder why I do what I do. Why have I stayed in WOW in the Better Building Group for like 7 years? Like, there's no financial stuff in it, but I just keep showing up because because it feels right.
Yeah. What's WOW, sorry?
So WOW is We Are One. So that's a great community group, not-for-profit, and it has different offshoots, food resilience, water, and one of the groups is Better Building Group. And the 3 aspects we look at in that group is better building techniques or healthier building techniques, our waste management, which we're driving really, really hard, and then mental health. And that's sort of how I got into it, through the mental health thing, and I did a couple of talks, and we've kind of dropped off on that a little bit, but the waste management are definitely taking priority because the industry creates 50 to 60% of all waste in New Zealand is created by construction.
Yeah, and I imagine that's not something that people actually really know or understand.
No. I didn't even know,
Yeah.
And it's thanks to a couple of businesses that have developed their own businesses to allow us to recycle more. So we're sort of down to now getting most of our building waste as only wood and little things. All of our metal goes, polystyrene, gibboard, plastics, cardboard, pallets. The amount of pallets that turn up on our site is ridiculous, but they're taking them now. So, yeah, we're definitely saving money, less going to waste. Again, it just feels like the right thing. And again, I can put the vision there, and the guys are taking it. I turned up to site last year, and they had a battery box for recycling batteries. And I was like, I didn't think of that. And they were picking up nails and screws and putting them in the metal bin instead of putting them in the recycling bin because they're metal. I'm like, oh. So they're carrying on that vision, and that's success.
Definitely. That's fantastic.
It's very cool.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've got a lot going on and involved in lots of different things. And you're not just running a business, you're also a dad, you've got 2 young kids.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate that sort of balance between growing the business, making time for family, finding space for yourself, supporting the community, doing all the things?
Very supportive wife, probably, first. Boundaries. So I don't want to do this and have to work 80 hours a week. So again, I'm reading a book that I got given by my coach, 10x is easier than 2x. And the saying in that is who, not how. I have some pretty awesome who's. I have my Zara, I have my Amy, I have my guys on site. So it does allow me to do more of this during the day. I don't have to do it all at night. My kids are super important to me. So getting home to them at a reasonable hour. I still do a decent day, but trying to challenge that mindset as well. Around having to do a 40, 45-hour week because I'm a builder is really important to me, and I do a lot of things. I train a lot to keep my mental health good. I know that if I miss a few days, I do start to suffer a little bit. Eat well, whole food based, don't drink, gave up alcohol 3 years ago. Love to go to a sauna, do a lot of stretching, do yoga on a Wednesday night, tonight actually, with Jules. Shout out to Jules. And it's all in just to look after myself so I can show up as the best human being for myself, actually. So if I can show up for myself the best, I can show up for my work, I can show up for my kids and my wife, I can show up for the community. But if I'm not whole and at a hundy, you can't pour from an empty cup. So yeah, I put a lot of emphasis on it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, especially coming from a man, because it's something that we talk about a lot as women, but I imagine that it's a less discussed topic amongst men.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I played rugby, I'm a builder, used to drink heavily. You know, the old rugby, racing and beer, Kiwi man.
Yeah.
I'm still a Kiwi man. I love to go hunting. If I wasn't building, I'd be hunting every other day. Yet I can do all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
And still be a Kiwi man.
And still be a Kiwi man, whatever that is.
Yeah, it's great.
And not to drink and stuff, and just being confident in your own skin to just be that and not be worried about what other people think about you. That's another big piece that has probably come from my coaching is the judgment of others. Just releasing that. And it comes up every now and again, and all this stuff still comes at you. And hopefully you're strong enough or you're doing enough good habits to fend them off.
Yeah, and it gets easier the more that you do it, and over time you get more confident in yourself. And for anyone else that is interested in all those same things and wants to build a healthier home or influence industry change, what's one small action that someone in the community could take after listening to this conversation and feeling inspired by what you've shared?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. But don't be afraid to stick your neck out. Bill, we're about to start. I've actually had quite a few meetings with them and helping them through that early preliminary stages and making right decisions and pricing. And he's been here his whole life, and he's got mates, and and a lot of them are builders. And they're like, what the hell are you doing all that for? Why would you build like that for? You don't need to do all that. That's just a waste of money. Which again is that removal of the judgment of others and being brave. Can you be brave to do something different? Can you step outside the box? I guess like me when I niched, frick, I had to be brave because so many people said to you, you won't survive. There's no way you're going to survive just doing those houses. No way. And I was like, okay, let's go.
Cancel, delete that and move on.
Cancel, delete that, try and remove, try and forget that. But also said it's a bit of a challenge. And we've stayed relatively small, but we'll keep working forward, and we're now looking at a bit of growth, and into next year we're looking more growth, and all of a sudden it maybe is starting to spin off, and it is going to be survival, and it is going to be able to work. Yeah. Having to be brave, yeah.
I imagine being here in Wānaka too, you're in a great place to be part of that and that growth and everything.
Oh yeah, very lucky. We potentially have the most passive house builds locally in the country, and that's very cool. And I've had another good colleague of mine say to me, she sells a lot of houses that are really top market, and should love those people if they only knew, because they're probably the ones with the money that could do it as well. But if they only knew.
Yes, and that's what this podcast's for. It's to get that word out there and let people know that they exist and what that means and how beneficial they can be for our life and how that supports the environment and everything going forward. And I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been really interesting, and you've shared lots of amazing things that you're doing. And yeah, I mean, what's the best place for people to learn more about passive houses, and how can they connect with you?
Connecting with us, yeah, we're across all social, even on TikTok now, which is interesting. Not my whole cup of tea, but yeah, across all the socials and website. We do a lot of blogs, we do monthly newsletters, but it's not just us. There's a whole industry out there. Passive House New Zealand, a lot of other really good builders up and down the country do a lot of information on it. Worldwide, again, you know, a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube clips. That's where I do a lot of my learning, to be honest. So yeah, there's lots of different ways, but our website, emabuilding.co.nz. It'd be great to even just talk to you. As I said, like, if you're not even building this way, just ask a few tips. Yeah. Tips and tricks. We might even start a YouTube tips and tricks.
Yes, that's an idea.
Yeah.
One last question. Can you do anything to a standard build home to make it more like a passive house, or is it too late?
I said there's 2 passive house standards. There's actually 3. There's actually 4. But one of them is Enerfit, which is a renovation passive house standard, which is really cool. So they'll take into account the actual existing home and what it's got and the elements it's got, and then you've got to try and actually fit everything into it, which is cool. For overheating, you can do stuff. So if you're getting too hot, you need to shade on the outside. I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. blinds on the inside of a glass is not going to stop the heat getting into your house. It'll stop your furniture getting ruined and your carpet rotting out and your face getting hot, but it won't stop the heat. You need to blind on the outside. So that's one thing you can do. If you've been getting hot over summer, is to drop some blinds on, especially west windows, because the sun goes under our eaves, and north-facing windows. Or if you are hot and you've got no cooling, you can put heat pumps in. If you're a bit too cold in winter, potentially look at ducted heat pumps to get bedrooms warmer. It is a little bit tricky, but you could put the thermo boxes into all your duct systems that could be retrofitted, so that at least you're shutting out 3 or 4 holes in your house that aren't leaking air.
Yeah.
Next time you have a shower in the middle of winter, this is what light bulb went off on me. I was in a rental and I'd just done the passive house course and I had a shower and I was like, man, I'm cold. And I looked up. The grill was right there above my head and the cold air was hitting me on the shoulder. So next time you're having a shower, go and stand beside your 150mm duct going through your wool and see how much air's going through it and when the fan turns off, because it goes both ways. That would be another tip and trick that could help. But yeah, it's tricky once built. So one of my staff actually always says, build your external envelope to the best quality as you possibly can. If that means you've got to cheapen your bathrooms, cheapen your fittings, cheapen your kitchens, get your external structure perfect, insulated and awesome as you can, and then 10 years' time you throw a better kitchen in it, you can do a bathroom.
You can always upgrade in the future.
You can upgrade the insides, because the inside stuff's probably after 20 years, 25 years, is going to get upgraded anyway. It's just construction.
Yeah.
But if the envelope's amazing, then the house will be amazing to live in. I need to get some feedback, even online, just of living in them, because I don't live in one. I want to build one for myself, absolutely. I'm trying to sell my house now, and I want to buy a house. It's pretty good, halfway there. Buy it so I can build myself a passive house.
The guinea pig.
The guinea pig, yeah.
Thank you so much for talking with us today, Mark. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I wish you all the best for the future going forward and more passive homes in Wānaka and beyond.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mark as much as I did. I'm so grateful for how he openly shared his journey from stepping into business to embracing personal growth and leading with purpose in the building industry. It's inspiring to see small Kiwi businesses making bold commitments to do things differently, especially when it comes to creating healthier homes and a better future for our planet. It's such a powerful reminder that real leadership starts from within. And if you have been thinking about how to make your home more efficient or create a more values-led business, I hope this episode sparked a few ideas for you. Be sure to check the show notes for all the links to connect with Mark and learn more about working with MA Building. Next time on the podcast, I'm joined by Sophie Moskowitz from Imperfect Parents, an inclusive parent education community that supports families through all the messy, magical stages of early parenthood. Sophie shares how her own experience during the pandemic inspired a grassroots movement, why self-compassion is a non-negotiable, and how nature-based play and safe spaces are creating deeper connections for families of all kinds. I can't wait to share this beautiful conversation with you. Thank you for being part of the Ideas That Inspire community. If today's episode sparked joy or inspiration, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. Because the more people that hear these stories, the more change we can create together. You can join the conversation on Instagram at Ideas That Inspire, where we connect, share, and support each other in living mindfully and making a real impact. You can also find us on YouTube or visit ideasthatinspire.com to apply to share your story on the podcast, or book a clarity call to take the next step towards your own inspiring idea, goal, or dream. Let's light up the world together, one idea at a time.